Hey everybody, it's Mama to Wife of One, and welcome back to my channel. As you all know, it's Thursday, which means we're here to recap Married at First Sight Season 15. This is episode 4, which was called Sand, Sun, and Spouses. So this is the episode where 4 out of the 5 couples found out where they were going for their honeymoon, went on their honeymoon, and the remaining 5th couple finally got married. So we're going to start with the 5th couple that got married, Morgan and Ben, because not a lot happened other than them actually getting married. But I did take a couple of notes. So she concerns me a little bit. She reminds me of a bride from a previous season because she said something like, I just really hope that, they match me with somebody who's like me so we can be on the same page. That's a little confusing, right? Because you can have someone who shares similar values as you and similar morals, but having someone who is like you can be a little dangerous. I don't recommend anybody getting with someone who is exactly like them. I think you need somebody who will challenge you, who will expose you to different things. But being with someone who is just like you can get very old very fast, and it can definitely cause you all to butt heads, especially because it seems like she's stubborn and she likes things a certain way. And my previous concern with her is that, not with her, but I guess with the coupling in general, Ben, at least on the surface, seems like he's very amenable. He doesn't seem like he likes to argue, doesn't seem like he wants to challenge anything. He's going to kind of go with the flow to make sure his wife is happy. And I just don't want Morgan to step all over him, but I also don't think Morgan wants someone who's just going to go along just to get along. So obviously these are early predictions and just early things I'm saying here or there without really seeing them together. So when they finally did get married, I liked the chemistry they had at the altar. They just seemed so just cute and so excited, like, oh my gosh, you're finally here and you're my husband. Yeah, and you're my wife. Like their energy was really great. They seemed really excited. They seemed attracted to each other, which is great. And it just seemed really cute. And I had to remember that, oh, they're both in their 20s too. They're 27, 29. Even though Morgan looks a little older, they're just so excited just to be married and just to be in this space. And, the wedding was delayed because Ben had COVID. So they were just like, oh my gosh, we're finally here. So I like that. We know that he's a self-proclaimed mama's boy, and her opinion means a lot to him. And I do think it'll be interesting to see the dynamic of how they approach relationships because of their background. Ben's parents have been married, I believe, since 1975. And of course, he wants a long lasting marriage like his parents. Whereas Morgan doesn't have the best relationship with her dad. She said that, I don't talk to him about things. I don't consult him about things. I don't remember she said that she told him she was getting married, but he obviously didn't come to the wedding, didn't walk her down the aisle. She walked herself down the aisle. And I do want to say there was something empowering watching her walk herself down the aisle, because she even mentioned it in her vows. She's like, I didn't want anybody giving me to you. I wanted to give myself to you freely without having a male figure or someone give me away. And I was like, I like that. It definitely, was a hint at her very independent streak, but I really like the way she phrased it. I think that could, well, I guess we don't know yet, but my assumption is because her father was not really in the picture and because they don't get along and don't really talk, I have a feeling that that's going to impact the way she approaches relationships. Because she doesn't normally consult him with stuff, I think it may be hard for her to get into the habit of actually talking to Ben about things, and not just consulting with him, like asking permission, because now that's not what consulting means, but just talking to him, right? Talking to him about her fears, about any big changes she's thinking of making, just having a partner and telling things to your partner and bouncing ideas off your partner. I feel like that may be something she hasn't really done in the past because she hasn't really had to. That may be a little difficult for her to really get in the swing of things. And with Ben, and I said this before, you can be a mama's boy, but I feel like there's level to it, right? If he's as much of a mama's boy as everyone says, lives even in his vows, which I found a little disturbing. But if he's that much of a mama's boy, he is going to have to really work on A, putting Morgan first and not his mother, and B, understanding that the things that go on between a husband and wife, the two of you have to decide how much you're willing to disclose to people outside of your marriage. Meaning, let's say Morgan is having a really bad day at work and she's on the verge of getting fired for whatever reason. Let's just give that as an example. Ben obviously has to have the conversation with her because then you talk about finances. Okay, what can we do? How can I support you? Let's look at our finances and make sure we'll be okay while you're looking for another job or whatever, right? That's a conversation just the two of them need to have. because that's related specifically to their households, no one else needs to know the information unless Morgan herself tells people that information. So if Ben takes that information and immediately calls his mom and like, yeah, mom said she lost her job and I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna figure it out and blah blah blah. Like, I understand that's your first instinct, but you have to understand that for something like that, now you have to start thinking, okay, I want to tell my mom because I always tell my mom everything. However, this is between me and my wife. Let me talk to my wife first. If she says no, I don't want other people knowing, then I can't tell my mom. Even if I want to, then my mom is my best friend. Morgan now is my best friend. She is my wife. I have to change my mindset. So this is just an example. And I think it'll be difficult for both of them to change that. I mean, for all the couples to change your mindset from acting like you were when you were single to now considering somebody else full time now that you're married. That takes a while to really get the hang of, and you still are going to stumble. Like, I've been married now for almost 9 years, and there's still times when I forget to call my husband first or my husband forgets to call me first. And it's not the biggest deal, but we do kind of gently remind each other, like, hey, I'm your wife, like, call me. So a lot didn't happen there. I did think it was interesting though that Ben gave her a wedding gift. The wedding gift, obviously, was the engagement ring that all the grooms have been sending their brides. But he also gave her a copy of Pastor Cal's book, Marriage Ain't for Punks. And I was like, did he really pick that out for her? Or was this another shameless plug that they're throwing in the show? They already have JamesAllen.com as like the main sponsor of each episode. And we see the ring box and we see the commercials for James Allen starring Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper. So I was like, is this another shameless plug just to kind of push Pastor Cal's book? I thought that was really interesting. Like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I did think they were cute. They both work out 5 times a week. They both seem to be very passionate about health and fitness. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. Because their honeymoon is being shortened, I don't know if this means they're going to have that moment the next day after the wedding night when they meet with their in-laws and all that stuff. Because I feel like that stuff is going to take time. And if you're already going to shorten their honeymoon, I say they have their wedding, have the wedding night, and then hop on a plane the next day. You can see the in-laws and all that stuff. You can meet them when you come back from the honeymoon. I don't think the honeymoon should be shortened any more than it already is. My personal opinion. And now I want to go to I want to save them for last. I want to go to Kristen and Mitch. These are my predictions. I think he's going to move a little slower than she would like. Though he does seem to be warming up to her now that she doesn't have her heels on and she took her makeup off and he sees her just in sweats or in jeans with no makeup, fresh face. He's like, oh, okay, now I'm seeing the real you. And kills me by dudes. We've seen, if you're on social media at all, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, you've seen women who look very, very different in and out of makeup where you're like, yo, how much work do they put in to do that contour, to put on that spackle, to do whatever? Makeup, is supposed to enhance your natural beauty, not turn you to a whole different person, right? So we've seen people who look completely different with makeup. She looked exactly the same. The only difference was her face was a little redder. But I'm like, you act like she had on a full thick 3-inch thing of makeup on her face and look completely unrecognizable. She looks literally exactly the same. I was like, I need Mitch to kind of get over it. And also, I made a note that I don't think he's very physical with her, because even when they went to bed on their wedding night, she had to ask him if she could kiss him on the cheek. So he didn't try to kiss her, didn't try to hold her. He did say that he didn't mind cuddling, but I don't know if it's because he still feels awkward with her or because he's trying to respect her boundaries. But I feel like she's taking things slow, but she also understands, okay, yes, you are a stranger, but you are my husband. So I'm treating you right away like my husband. But I think Mitch is treating her as a woman that I married, but not necessarily making the connection that this is my actual wife, if that makes any sense. But so this is the thing that kind of confused me. For Kristen to be such a daddy's girl, and she's self-proclaimed daddy's girl, love my daddy, he means everything to me, all that stuff. Where has he been, right? Because he flew in for the wedding. He lives on the East Coast. I assume he didn't just fly in for the wedding and leave the next day. So why the next morning when they're meeting with each other's families, why is Mitch still meeting with her mother? Why has he not had a conversation with her father? And granted, maybe he had it and we haven't seen it, but my theory is that her father was so pissed that she put him on the spot and didn't tell him about the wedding until like a few minutes before the wedding, that he definitely flew out that night and was like, you know what, don't talk to me, I don't want to be on the show again. But he saved face on camera like, oh, well, baby girl, I love you, and sure, I'll walk you down the aisle. But I think he was actually pissed and he left. That's my personal theory. But I did think it was weird that Mitch didn't try to seek him out, at least at the wedding, and say something to him. I don't know if it's because he has a crush on her mom, because her mom she's a baddie. She looks really good. And again, I've said it before, it looks like her freaking sister. And actually looks a little younger than Kristen, which is kind of creepy to think about. But I was kind of weird about that. I thought it was kind of weird that he hasn't like met her dad or talked to him at all. I also think this is a really weird thing. The mother asked him basically why haven't your relationships worked in the past, and he was like, well, he made it seem like his passion for the environment, he felt like he had to hide that, like he was almost ashamed of it. And then once he exposed himself as this environmentalist, the women just, couldn't get on board. And I just thought that was a really weird, I think that's kind of a weird, now granted, I'm not an environmentalist at all, but is that really such a turnoff for women that that's why you haven't had a solid relationship and that's why our relationships have ended because you've been an environmentalist? Is that really a deal breaker for a lot of women? And I don't, I'm confused and I'm not a part of that world. So maybe it is a big deal. And I just don't know. Maybe it's a big deal in California specifically. And women are like, oh no, well, you're overzealous. I can't do this. Maybe that's the case. It just seemed like kind of a flimsy excuse for why your relationships haven't worked, especially because what he told the experts was that I've been so consumed with this job that I haven't taken the time to actually date. I haven't taken the time to make something work. So that's a different story than what you told her mom. It's making it seem like all the women had the issue with what you were doing when in reality, you weren't doing your part to balance out a relationship and balance out your passions. Basically, what his mother told him, what her mother told him. Make sure that Kristen is a priority. Don't put her to the side. Don't say, oh, I got a wife. She's over there. She's fine. Make sure you make her a priority. In addition to all the stuff you're passionate about, that's all well and good. That's great. But this is your wife now. And so I like that, she said that. Hopefully he heard it and he'll actually internalize it. But obviously only time will tell. She met with his mother, brother, and sister-in-law. And what I thought was interesting is that normally when they have these talks with the in-laws, it's the in-laws kind of grilling them saying, okay, they do ask, what are your intentions, which is kind of weird. It's like you normally ask that of someone who's dating your son or your daughter. You don't ask that of someone who's already married them. It's like, okay, well, my intention was to marry them. That already happened. Now what? But most of the time it's to kind of get to know this new person in their family, to basically say, okay, so what do you think about this? And let me kind of warn you about this. And hey, we love him, we love her, we're protective, but we'll, support your marriage any way we can. It's that kind of talk. Kristen meeting with Mitch's family, it was more like they were telling her, good luck. It, like the whole vibe was like, oh, we love Mitch. He's great, but he is stubborn. He can be a jerk. He's kind of proud. He's brutally honest. He'll hurt your feelings. So be tough. It was like, y'all said not one good thing about this man. I thought that was very interesting. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't their intention to make it come off that way. But it was strange. Like, huh. Okay, so if I'm Kristen, I'm like, okay. So basically, you're telling me he's going to hurt my feelings and he's going to be too proud to admit when he's wrong and he's going to be a jerk about it. That's not, that's not a winning combination. That is really kind of concerning that that's all they had to say. So I thought that was very interesting. But he did tell Kristen that he appreciates that she's assertive and that she's not afraid to take the lead. And he admitted to being guarded in the beginning, but that he is more comfortable with her. And he said that he actually likes her. So I was like, okay, we're making some progress. This is all on the honeymoon. So we're making some progress. So I can appreciate that. Mitch, I think, is an interesting character. I think he may turn. I don't think anyone yet has shown that they're going to be the villain of the season, because normally we can kind of spot that in the first few episodes. No one has made me necessarily cringe. I think because Mitch is so brutally honest that he may say some villainous type things, but I don't think overall, at least yet, speaking early, I don't think overall he's going to be the villain. So I think we'll kind of have to see who that person is going to be. And now I'll talk about Alexis and Justin, because I don't have a lot of notes. I will say that I like Justin's mom. Even just the way she talked, I was like, oh, his mother is me. I really liked her. So apparently Justin's been engaged, and I think we knew that, but I couldn't remember. But I think we did. We did know that he was engaged. She asked his family about his engagement, but I feel like that should have come from him. I don't think this is a question she should have asked them. And maybe she did ask Justin, but she wanted to get his family's take on it. I don't think that was completely necessary, though. Like, well, Justin told you what's what. Just kind of believe what he said. They are a little nervous, and a lot of viewers I've talked to are a little nervous too by the fact that she has rejected 3 proposals. They're kind of nervous that she's going to run away, but I do want to point out that she is only 29, right? So obviously that's something I didn't really like put together. She's 29 years old when she gets married to Justin. So obviously those 3 times that she was proposed to, she was in her early to mid 20s. Most people aren't necessarily sure about getting married and spending the rest of your life with a person in their 20s. Some people are, but some people it's like, And if you think about it, assuming, I don't know when the first engagement happened, obviously, or first proposal happened, but assuming this is, let's say, when she's 21. So we're talking 3 proposals in a span of 8 years. That's a lot, but I understand her being like, I don't know, because if it's 3 proposals in 8 years, who knows how long she was with each person. So obviously there was something about that person, about the situation that did not feel right to her and didn't feel like forever for her. But she said to, his family, like, I am tired of running. You can trust me. I'm going to be here. I'm signed up for this. I'm in this for the long haul. So obviously time will tell if that's true or not. And his mother did say that she can be sensitive. I think she can be sensitive as well. It just comes off, I think, a different way. He met with her sisters, and I really like them. I love the questions that they asked. It wasn't just like, oh, so what are you going to do with my sister? It was like, well, no, when you're upset, because one of her sisters, older sister, said to him that you can really tell a lot about a person when they are angry. So when you are angry, how do you express yourself? How do you communicate your anger? And I didn't like his answer because he didn't answer the freaking question. He basically was like, well, if she's really upset, I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to be there for her. I'm going to be patient with her. The sister didn't ask what you're going to do if Alexis is upset. She asked, how are you when you're upset? So he didn't answer the question at all. So we still don't know. We don't know if he's going to cry when he's upset, if he's a person who yells, if he's a person who throws things, if he's a person that needs some space and needs to walk away. She didn't answer that question. He didn't answer that question. And I don't know if it's because he misunderstood it, because he didn't want to admit to how he acts when he's angry, or, for some other reason. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, okay, that didn't really help at all. He did say that he's a pleaser, but only if it's reciprocated. So basically, I'm all about pleasing my woman, but I'm not about to have her walk all over me, which I appreciate as well. I did find it odd that when she met with his family, she met with his sister, and I don't know if that's his friend or his sister-in-law or a cousin or something, but I thought that she should have met directly with his brother, because his brother obviously helped to raise him, and they're very, very close. And I know she talked with him at the wedding, but I thought that he would have been at the brunch the next day too. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he wasn't there. But not a lot really happened with them. They are all over each other. They're very affectionate. They seem to be kissing more than everybody else. They're very, very comfortable with each other, which is obviously a good sign. And when you get to the honeymoon, they're cool. I will say this about Justin. Justin needs to kind of keep his mouth shut just a little, just a tad, just a smidge. They're in the honeymoon. They're at the honeymoon, and they're with the other 3 couples, and they're all talking about, if they had sex the wedding night. Spoiler alert: nobody had sex the wedding night, right? Which is fine. Like, that tends to happen most of the time. So, but he's talking about, yeah, we didn't have sex. And Alexa's like, yeah, my man's celibate, y'all. He's been celibate for a year and a half. And so, no, nothing happens. Just a lot of kissing and touching. And Justin was like, man, I ain't gonna lie, man. He's talking about the morning after the wedding and how his body reacted the morning of. Now, for those of you who are men, you know what happens when you wake up in the morning. You know what your body is doing. For women who may not know, when a man first wakes up, he has an erection. So basically, Justin said, in the morning, I can't lie, I had an erection. Now, the way he phrased it was a lot cruder. So I'm not going to repeat the way he said it, but basically, he was like, man, my blank was hard as F. We'll just say that. And it was like, shut up. Like, why was that necessary? It was just a weird comment to say in front of everybody. And it's like, dude, again, all the guys know that that's what happens when you first wake up. I'm pretty sure most of the women know. Even if they don't, that's not their business. This is your first time really talking to all of the brides because you hadn't met them before. And it's like, why did you do this? So I thought that was kind of weird. And I think for him being 33 is kind of an immature thing to say. It reminded me of like something I think Olajuwon would have said last season. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I don't know. For Justin, I feel like, my prediction, I think they like each other. I think they are definitely vibing with each other. I think Justin is going to move a little too fast for her because he is so desperate almost to make it work that he is going to talk himself into being in love really quickly or loving her quickly or whatever. And once that's rejected by her, not because she's not feeling the same way, but because she feels like they're moving too fast, I feel like he's going to not snap, but he's going to take that rejection personally and take it not as I'm not ready, but he's going to take it as, oh, you don't like me. Again, early prediction. I don't know for sure. Next, I want to talk about Stasha and Nate. They are so cute together. A lot of people online are saying that they look like each other. They do kind of favor each other. Hopefully, they're not related. I mean, obviously, that's the hope. But I do like them together. I like that they're asking pretty hard hitting questions right away. And I really like that. I also made a note that I love that almost all of the men have mentioned that they really are looking forward to cuddling with their wives. I love that these men are so into cuddling. I just think that's really cute. And she asked him on the first night, you know, what is your expectations of a wife? And he asked her the next morning about her biggest insecurity. And I love the fact again that they're asking these hard hitting, like really deep questions right away. I thought that was really cool. I love that they're so comfortable with each other that they can ask those kinds of questions. I did roll my eyes a little bit when they were talking about insecurities, and I shouldn't have. It was very wrong of me and very insensitive of me to do so. But it came off as a black person myself and as a darker skinned person myself. It just came off as two light skinned people talking about their light skin problems. But again, I know that was very insensitive because I do know there's a lot of mental anguish sometimes. Period about being a black person. There's mental anguish regardless of what you look like if you're black. But there is some specific things to being lighter skin, some specific things to being darker skin. From what I've heard from lighter skin people, they do have that stipulation of not feeling black enough or people making them feel like they're not black enough because they happen to be light skinned. So I do know that that is an actual thing. And I know that that can be very traumatizing, especially when you're younger and all you want to do is just exist. You just want to have your friends, go to school, eat candy or whatever. So to have people questioning this part of you that you know, especially when you know who you are, when you're younger, you don't really know how to combat that. You don't know how to combat it. You don't know how to justify it. You don't know what you should or shouldn't say. It's a lot. So I definitely understood what the things that they were saying. But in the moment, for a split second, I was like, oh, these light skinned people. But no, I do understand. So, and I do sympathize, and I'm glad that they have each other. So at least that's another thing they have in common that they can bond over, right? And she met with his father and his friend. And I didn't know the story about his family. So apparently, his dad is black and his mother's Korean. His mother basically abandoned him, and he talks about remembering the last time he met her or saw her was when he was 12. And he's like, it was very awkward. It was for my birthday. She like gave me a hug, and that was pretty much it. Like, it just, there was no connection there, there's no relationship. And because of how he grew up, he's very much focused on having the exact opposite. I want that two parent household. I want to have kids. I want to have that family structure that I never had, but that I always wanted. Though his dad was there for him every step of the way, he really appreciates all the stuff his dad did for him. And he said, I want to take all the good things from my dad and pour that into being the best husband and father I can be. And I definitely applaud that. I think that's great. She did talk to the dad and the friend, and she said that she can be a workaholic. Sometimes she works 12 to 15 hours a day. She can be stubborn, but she plans to pull back a little bit to make room for her babies and family. And again, intentions are great, but it is hard sometimes to make that adjustment if you have been doing the same thing for so long and you never had to make the adjustment before. You never had to pull back on your hours. You never had to come home at a certain time. You never had to call somebody to say, hey, I'm running late. I'm not going to be home till 9, 10 o'clock tonight. You never had to do that before. It's hard to get in the habit of doing this now. So hopefully she will be honest and she'll stick with what she said and she'll pull back a little bit. We'll see. Again, only time will tell. But I think her intentions are in the right place. She wants a family. She likes Nate. She wanted to be married. But now that you wanted to be married, you have to do what it takes to maintain that marriage, maintain that relationship, be the kind of wife your husband said that he needs. So again, it'll take time, but we'll see if she actually puts the work in. When he met with her family, he met with her friends and her mom, and they talked to him about sex. And I do think it's unnecessary and uncouth for the in-laws to talk to this new family member about, oh, so when you plan to have sex with my sister or plan sex with my daughter or my son. It's like, that's not your business. Number one, it's not your business. Number two, if that conversation hasn't happened already between the bride and groom, that's where it needs to happen first. I'm not about to tell my new father-in-law when I'm going to have sex with his son before I even talk to his son about, expectations we both have when it comes to sex. I just think that's just really, and I don't know if it's the family actually asking that question because they're curious, or if it's the producers kind of goading them into asking those kind of questions. But I think that's so tacky to ask that. And again, it's none of your freaking business what I plan to do or not plan to do with your son and or daughter. I just think that's kind of weird. But he did get choked up when he talks to him about his dad and how much he loves him and appreciates all the stuff that he did. And he hopes to have sex on the honeymoon. And she's just like, I just want things to be organic. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want us to feel pressure to do anything. She's like, I don't want to have meaningless sex. He's like, I'm on board with that. So the very first night of their honeymoon, they take a shower together. And when I say the tongues were tangling, they were out, and he's picking up her thigh, and you can see her scratching his back. And of course, they got the romantic music, and they got the slow motion going because you got to make it sexy in the water. And then, like, they showed her feet or showed their feet, and her feet are on top of his. That freaks me out because if y'all have watched this channel for any length of time, I hate feet. I hate people's feet. Your feet can be out. I don't have a problem with your feet being out. Like, live your life, do whatever makes you comfortable. Your feet can even be out around me, and I'm fine. But if your feet touch my feet or touch any part of my body, I'm freaking the freak out. Like, I cannot stand that. So seeing that, I was like, that just disgusted me. But it looks like we were having a poll on my group chat about who we thought was going to have sex first. I thought it was going to be Alexis and Justin. But I don't know. Sasha and Nate were looking mighty cozy, all bucky naked in the water and just dripping and all this stuff. So it looks like it's going to be them. However, a few seasons ago, Woody and Amani took showers together on the honeymoon, but they didn't have sex on the honeymoon. At least they claimed they didn't. They just said we took showers to get comfortable with each other. Just a different level of intimacy without actual sex. So who knows? It could be the same with them. We don't know. But it's looking pretty likely that they're going to get it in on the honeymoon. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that. The last couple I want to talk about is Lindy and Miguel. So, and I didn't take a lot of notes, but it was just some interesting stuff. So let me say this. I am similar to Lindy in the fact that I overthink a lot of things. I tend to take a situation, try to look at it from as many angles as possible, try to look at several solutions, try to figure out what solution is best. Sometimes I go a little overboard in my thinking and I have to be reeled back in. I don't get as panicky as Lindy does or as kind of like scattered as she does and just kind of like freaked out. I don't do that. But I feel like, okay, yes, she is like that. And Miguel is kind of the calming presence. So it makes sense they'll pair them together so that Miguel can be there to kind of calm her down, bring her back from the edge, and make sure she's good. The thing is with a relationship like that, the goal is supposed to be for him to do that for her for a little bit and then for her to kind of pull from her own calmness, for him to rub off on her enough that she starts employing some of these practices on her own of what he does. Like if he tells her, hey, relax, breathe, count to 10, walk away for a little bit, whatever he tells her to kind of get her to chill out, she needs to start internalizing some of those own tactics. So when she's not with him or, even if she is with him, she can start doing that stuff on her own without waiting for him to come and calm her down. If she does not do that, that means he constantly has to be basically on call like another job. It seems like she freaks out quite often. So it sounds like he's going to have to be right there. If she doesn't employ these tactics on her own and doesn't learn from him, he's going to have to be right there to kind of help her through everything and kind of be her handler almost, which can get very old very fast and very exhausting for Miguel. So, and I already see him getting kind of annoyed with it. He's not overwhelmed with it just yet, but I can already see him being annoyed about the idea of always having to bring her back from the brink of whatever. So, again, I hope that she will be like, okay, Miguel's not here, but I can breathe and I'm going to be okay and I'm going to do this. Hopefully he'll rub off on her for the better and, vice versa. That's supposed to be what happens when you're married. Yes, I'm still a little much of an overthinker. I'm not very spontaneous. My husband is very, very spontaneous. But there are moments where he will think something through a little clearer because I've rubbed off on him in that way. And there are moments where I'm spontaneous and not spontaneous in the fact like he is still not on his level. And I probably will never be on his level, but spontaneous in the point where if I plan something and it falls through, the old me would have been like, man, I'm the worst wife in the world, and worst mother in the world. I can't believe I didn't come with a plan B and I didn't do this and do this. The new me is like, okay, well, that didn't work out. That's fine. Oh, we can do this instead. Without me overthinking it, or without me, getting down on myself and beating myself up about something, immediately I'm going to switch gears and figure out, okay, this didn't work out. Bam, we're going to do this. Or this didn't work out. You know what? We can just stay home. We can find something to do at home. It's fine. But my mind is a little more settled and doesn't get to that state as often as it used to because I'm married to someone who is always calm. And his favorite thing to say was, we're going to be all right, babe. We got this. We'll be fine. And I may not always believe that in the moment, but knowing that's what he's going to say and knowing that he's right anytime we have any issues or anything goes awry, things turn out okay in the end somehow, some way. So now that I know that and I've internalized that, I'm able to just relax. So hopefully Lindy will incorporate that as well. If not, yeah, Miguel's going to get really tired really quick. So let's talk about the meetings they had with their respective in-laws. So we'll start with Miguel meeting with Lindy's brother and mother, I believe. Her mother asked him about having sex with her daughter. Again, that's none of your freaking business. And why are you bringing this up? And one thing that's bothering me, I am a Christian. I love God. I believe in him. I follow him. He's the Lord and Savior of my life. I teach my children the same thing and all that wonderful stuff. But there is nothing that's more of a turnoff than someone who is overly religious and pushing their religious beliefs on other people. As Christians, we are not normally, technically we are called to bring people to God, right? To create disciples, all that stuff, spread the word. But if you are not a preacher and you are not at a pulpit on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning or whatever your denomination is, there are ways to do that without hitting people over the head with your Bible and with your beliefs and you shouldn't do this and how dare you and bah, 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 bah. There are ways to do that. You're supposed to be a living, walking representation of Christ, and the way you treat people and the way you talk to people and the way you react to situations. That's how people can see Christ in you, right? That is what people are going to see. Her brother, I don't know if he's still being brainwashed by all the religious stuff, or it seems like he's definitely still more into it than Lindy is. But it bothers me that he keeps bringing up, well, God said this, only because you're pushing your stuff on him. You're pushing your beliefs onto Miguel, your brother-in-law. You are not speaking, though, for your sister. At the end of the day, you are now Miguel's family, and he probably acknowledges that and understands that. However, he is not married to you. He is married to Lindy. Lindy, as far as I know, has not mentioned anything at all about religion when she has talked to Miguel. She still loves God and everything like that, but she has gotten away from the strictness of how she grew up. So the fact that her brother keeps saying, oh, well, you should do this and the Bible says this, that is not your place to do that, sir. Because again, you are not speaking on behalf of your sister at all. So that's annoying me a lot. And Miguel looks a little bothered by it, but I think he's kind of just dismissing it because I think he is thinking like, well, Lindy has said none of this to me. So if Lindy didn't say it, that must not be how she feels. So I'm just going to relax and not mention it at all. But it bothers me a lot because I don't know exactly how close she and her brother are. So I don't know how much of an influence he is on her. I don't know if he's going to be around a lot this season, like all in their house trying to say stuff. I don't really know. But I was really annoyed by the whole conversation, personally. And then let's talk about Lindy talking to Miguel's family. He has an older sister who's very protective of him, which is fine. I'm a big sister too. I am protective of my little brother as well. However, the first thing out of her mouth is, I'm a little concerned because astrologically, Miguel is a Cancer and you are a Gemini, and those signs are not compatible. Those are her exact words. And she said it and then paused and looked at Lindy like she's waiting for Lindy to offer an explanation. What is Lindy supposed to say? Like, what kind of explanation is supposed to give? Like, oh, I'm sorry, I was born 2 weeks early, if that helps, or 2 weeks later, if that helps. And, I don't know what to, like, what is she supposed to say to that? A, she may not even know what that means. She may not know the heck a Cancer and a Gemini does. Everybody's not into astrology like that. And B, that's your first concern. That's the main thing you're concerned about, is the fact that they're not, that's so stupid. I won't say stupid, because people believe whatever they want to believe. But I just thought, for this to be the first breakfast you have with your new sister-in-law, you could have started with a stronger question. Because that wasn't even a question. You made a statement, and then you waited for Lindy to respond to the statement. Like, again, what is she supposed to say? So I just thought you could have come with something a little stronger than that. I just thought it was weird that that's what you chose to focus on. I found it very strange. And she said that the sister basically told Lindy that she and Miguel would need to compromise. They need to both put forth the effort to make the relationship work. She did ask if Lindy can contribute financially and if she has any debt. And Lindy did say she has a lot of student loan debt. At first, I was like, why would she have a specific question? But then Miguel did mention in one of his talking heads that he was in a previous relationship where he had to basically, he says dating women that he's had to provide for financially. So that's probably why the sister was like, oh, I don't want him going through that again, which I think is valid. That makes perfect sense. So, but one thing I didn't get is that they're both doctors. Lindy works. And the sister was like, oh, Miguel loves a woman with drive and ambition. She's like, well, I have drive and ambition with my career, but it got to the point where I wasn't really living my life. So now I'm working a little bit less so I can live my life. I don't know exactly what that means. I think I understand that when you have a PhD, it can be very time consuming. It can be just all consuming, really. Like, your life becomes your work. So I guess she was saying at one point my life was my work, and because of that, I wasn't doing anything for myself. So I cut back a little bit. I don't know how much she's cut back. So I don't know how much work she's putting towards paying off her student loan debt. And so once Miguel said what he's done for women in the past, I understood his sister's concern. She was like, I just don't want him, I don't want that to be his focus. I don't want him drowning in your debt. I don't want him to even feel like he needs to pay off your debt. Like, I don't want that for him. So I definitely understood, and it made sense. And so when Lindy got back to Miguel, she's talking to him about it. Like, oh, so your sister, we talked about finances, and I just want to let you know the student loans are in my name. Like, it's not your concern. It's not your whatever. And I mean, technically, she's right. It's in her name, so it's not technically his business. But you guys are married now, so of course he's going to be like, okay, but your debt is my debt, and vice versa. Now that we're married, now that we're one, we need to figure out how to work on this together. So hopefully that's what will take place. Because again, we have no indication of how she's paying off these loans, and if she has a plan to pay off the loans, or if she's already in the plan to pay off the loans. We don't know any of that. We just know that she said that I work, but I've cut back a little bit so I can live my life. So we don't know necessarily what that means. Obviously, nobody knows how much she makes, because I don't think they've had the conversation just yet. But I do think when it comes to talking about finances, I think that first conversation should happen between husband and wife as well. So again, I know the sister's being protective, but again, I don't think she should have brought that up. I think that she kind of overstepped her bounds a little bit, because Lindy even telling her about her student loan debt, that's a conversation she hadn't even had with Miguel yet. And that should have been directed to him, not to his sister. So I had a problem with that. And I think it's just family in general. Sometimes they're just so overprotective that they don't recognize boundaries, and they don't know to create those boundaries. And of course, if you're new to the family, you don't know yet how to create those boundaries either, because you're just meeting all of these people. But that did bother me just a tad bit. On the honeymoon, when all four of the couples were together, Alexis and Justin were very touchy-feely, as were Sasha and Nate. Kristen and Mitch didn't seem standoffish, but they definitely didn't feel, them and Lindy and Miguel didn't necessarily feel like a married couple. They were just like, oh, just kind of sitting beside their spouse. Like, there's no touching, there's no holding hands. Everybody's attracted to each other, but for some reason, and it could be not everybody's into PDA, right? Not everybody's comfortable holding hands or kissing or doing all that stuff in front of other people. So I do get that, and then maybe that was the case. But you could definitely tell that the energy was different with Alexis and Justin and Sasha and Nate compared to Lindy and Miguel and Kristen and Mitch. So we'll see how Ben and Morgan fit into that picture. But that's pretty much it, you guys, for episode 4 of Married at First Sight. I hope you guys liked the video. I want you to comment below. It looks like Sasha and Nate are going to be the first ones to consummate the marriage. Do you think it's going to be them? Or do you think it's going to be somebody else? Do you think that Lindy will ever calm down, like this period? Or do you think she's going to constantly be this way? You think that's going to be the thing that breaks up the marriage? Because obviously something's going to break up the marriage. We haven't seen any real drama yet. And normally we start seeing drama or hints of drama like at the wedding, towards the beginning of the honeymoon. Who do you think is going to have the first blow up with their spouse? Because you know somebody's going to blow up on the honeymoon because that's when all this stuff comes out. So who do you think is going to blow up first? Who do you think will be the villain of this season? Because we haven't, at least for me, I don't think there's a clear villain yet. There's some things that people have said that I don't like, but nobody that I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to be terrible. She's going to be awful. So who do you think is going to be the villain this season? Let's talk about it below. Comment, make sure you subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, share the video, like the video, do all those wonderful things, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for joining me. Peace.